Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. Despite my attempts to pretend like it's October, it's actually a hot day here, but I had to jump on, and I have so much to say about my girl, Jill Duggar Dillard. I love that woman, and I will fight for her till the end. Her book is about to come out September 12th. Is when I've been told it's being delivered to me. Of course, I've already ordered the book. I plan to go over it on my channel, and I've ordered some additional copies, which I would like to go ahead and give away on my channel. That's coming up. I'll have more information about that soon. But before all of that happens, I have to talk to you about Jill's most recent interview with People magazine. Yes, I love me some Jill Duggar. So from right off the bat, you should know that this video is coming from a Jill Duggar Dillard fan. I'm proud of her. I'm proud of the steps that she's made to come forward, the things that she said out loud that were difficult to say, the way that she showed up at Josh's trial ready to testify when nobody else was brave enough to be able to do that. Go, Jill. I am so proud of you, from where you've come from as a little girl to make the choices that you've made. Any way you twist and turn, if you decide to go more conservative, if you decide to go more liberal, I would be there supporting you, girl, because I know that you're a real person. You're real when it's hard to be real. When people tell you you're wrong, when everyone is telling you that you're wrong, you stand in your own truth, and I respect that about you to no end. Who gives a crap what anybody else says about you and Derek and your family? I'm the one who knows it all, and I say that Jill Duggar Dillard is the best thing to have come out of 19 Kids and Counting.
Okay, so question number 1 is, why did you leave the show? Well, we left the show, like 2 years ago? 3 years ago now. Because basically our family goals that we had for ourselves didn't align with what we found out, that like we ended up finding out like we didn't have as much control over.
So we've got a big interview right before her book. Jill Duggar is going to People magazine. Go, Jill! People magazine is like a real magazine. And she's talking about her family and her brother, as well as her marriage with her husband Derek, and she's just letting us know a lot of what's been going on with her, and she's kept quiet about so much. So I'm really grateful for her for speaking out and really giving us all of the information about what's been going on behind the scenes. Okay, so Jill lets us know in this article that she's still in the process of working through all of the emotions about everything that happened with Josh Duggar. It was shocking for her. She's still very upset about it. Obviously, this is not an easy situation in her life, and it's a big part of her life. But she still goes on to say that she will be talking about in her book the pain that she felt over the fact that a judge dismissed her lawsuit where she claimed there was an invasion of privacy when they gave out the names of her and her sisters as being victims in Josh's inappropriate behavior when he was a kid.
So check us out, dillardfamily.com. Leave us more questions there. Question number 1. Do you want more kids, and how many?
Yes, and it depends. The answer to half the questions I answer these days.
So yes, like Derek said, we would love more kids if God chooses to give us more.
And I did assume that this is going to be a big part of their book, because I know that Derek has a lot of interest in this. And I think for Jill, this is just my opinion, I almost feel like Jill felt like it was a worse trauma than actually having the situation occur. It was worse for her to have everything just brought out into public and dissected and spoken about than it was for her to have this interaction with her brother, which was awful. But she's saying like to have everything talked about by the entire world really was a painful experience for me and for my family.
We ended up finding out like we didn't have as much control over our lives as it related to like the show and stuff as we felt like we needed. So we had to make a decision at that time.
And Jill specifically says in the interview, when she's asked about what happened with going to the police about Josh when everything originally occurred, and she said, they told us as kids, this is a safe place. What you say is safe. And she says that wasn't true. Can you imagine as a child going to police officers, telling them the truth of what happened to you when you were abused by your brother, and them telling you like, you're going to be safe, we're going to take care of you here, and feeling like all of that information was disclosed in a way that caused you so much grief.
And nothing against our film crew or anything. They're great. We love them. But yeah, it was a really difficult decision, but something that we knew like we really needed to do for our family.
So in the interview, Jill talks about she still has a lot of anger about what happened from everything going public about her relationship with her brother. And she says one thing that she's learned through therapy and all the other stuff that she's been through is that anger isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be a really good thing, she says, quote unquote, especially when it propels you to advocate for people finding their voice. Jill says, even though this system failed us as victims in our desire for justice, and all of these people who just use and abuse their positions were not held accountable, we are still going to fight for victims' rights through Derek's line of work. I think that would be amazing. We don't know exactly what kind of specialty Derek is moving into, but I will say, having had several attorneys in my family, well, on my husband's side of the family, I can say that doing this kind of victims advocacy work does not bring in a lot of, oftentimes does not bring in a lot of income. It's difficult and hard work to do. If that's the type of work that Derek is looking to do, I have a lot of respect for him to follow that path. He is now an assistant district attorney in Oklahoma, and I am well aware that this does not pay a lot of money. You can go for more of like a private practice situation, and you tend to get the kind of clients that a lot of us would consider like, you're not doing good work. So I'm proud of Derek for following a path that probably is motivated by wanting to help people. Derek says, I work with victims now every day and try to make sure the same thing doesn't happen to them. We want to try and protect them and actually try and make sure that we can follow up and be genuine when we say this is a safe place. That's really, I didn't realize he was actually heading towards this line of work. So that's a really positive thing to hear about their family, that they're taking something really hard that happened to Jill when she was a child, and they're trying to do something positive with it now. Way to go, Derek. I've always thought he was a great husband and father. Derek says that Jill and her sisters believe they were being protected when they gave their statements against Josh. They were still minors. So it's very disappointing that all of that information was made public, and some of them were still kids at that point in time. Jill says, we hope and pray that going forward, nobody ever has to be in the position that we were in. Then in an Us Weekly article that came out regarding just everything that was said in the People interview, opened up about how everything that happened with Josh, it really did affect her marriage with Derek. And it was something they had to move through as a couple. I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them for everything that they've accomplished. And Jill opens up saying, it caused a lot of frustration in our marriage, especially early on, where he would feel a certain way about filming something. I'd be like, I hear you. I feel you. I also don't want to do whatever it is they're asking us to do, but we have to. So Jill's coming forward, and we've heard this on her YouTube videos. I really enjoyed watching when she and Derek, they came out on their YouTube videos and they gave a lot of information from behind the scenes saying why they left the show. And here she's letting us know once again that the filming was a big issue for Derek specifically. He wanted to go off. He wanted a career. He wanted a life. He wanted to do missionary work. And he did feel like he was being held back in many ways and being forced to depend upon Jim Bob. I know that Jim Bob was providing them with housing at some point in time, and he didn't want to do that for the rest of his life. He's very wise, because look at what's happened to some of the other children and their ultimate dependence and reliance on Jim Bob. Us writes, according to Jill, filming the show started to come between her and Derek and caused tension with her father, Jim Bob. No matter your age, you are to obey your parents' wishes, and you even have to ask them for their blessing for any major moment in your life, she recalled. We were dealing with this a lot when we were trying to make decisions for our family, and we were wrestling back and forth with it. I'm sure that was really hard on both of them, and Jill was probably being torn back and forth between a father and parents who she really loved and she felt they had a good relationship with Derek. But now Derek is saying, like, we have to be independent people. I know you've never been independent from your family, but I have, and I want to be. And Jim Bob was trying to suck them in and pull them back in. And this is where we really see what we've heard about Jim Bob in the past, that he can be uber controlling, that he can really push his kids to do what he wants them to do and only what he wants them to do. Okay, Derek went on to say, whenever we were at odds with what her dad thought we should be doing with filming, he would say things that would be very damaging. He would weaponize the relationship and say, is this you, Jill, or is this Derek? Are you leading your wife astray and doing things that are not supportive of marriage? And I think that that was a red flag. So he was actively trying to come between Derek and Jill. That is so sad and unfortunate. You have this man, this one son-in-law, who's willing to leave the flock and go be independent and still follow the teachings of God, be a Christian, obviously very dedicated to his faith. He's wanting to do missionary work. They're wanting to do work that is some of the hardest work you can possibly do. I know a lot of people disagree with what missionaries do, but I've been around people like Derek when they're actually doing the missionary work. They are living in really difficult places. There can be danger to their family. There can be lack of food and resources. Now, the people around them are that much more endangered. That's true. But I'm just saying, it's not a fun, wonderful activity like when someone just goes to visit for a week and do missionary work. It's really hard to live in these countries and do this kind of work that Derek was committed to doing. Here's Jim Bob coming in and criticizing him when he wants to leave Arkansas and do the real work of helping people. It just leads me down a path of having even more frustration with Jim Bob Duggar. And then lastly, Jill does bring up the fact that she had to go on an interview with Megyn Kelly in 2015 to try to sort of defend Josh. And she says, it's not something I'm proud of. If I hadn't felt obligated to do it like for the sake of the show and to do it for the sake of my parents, I wouldn't have done it. I'm so proud of Jill. If you're able to, even if you don't like Jill Duggar, even if you're not a fan of the Duggars, do me a favor and be supportive by buying one of her books or watching some of her YouTube videos or just leaving a positive comment on one of her YouTube videos to let her know that she's not alone and that regardless of how we might feel personally about her religious beliefs, whatever your situation is, we can still be proud of Jill for what she's accomplishing, the steps that she's making in her life, the fact that this is not easy to do and she's doing it. I'm so proud of Jill and Derek. Like I said, I will be focusing on this book. I will be supporting this book. I will be asking anyone who watches this show to do something to support this couple. And I have much love for all of you out there. I can't wait to go down this rabbit hole with you, talking about Jill Duggar Dillard's book. Have a great day, everyone.